When I became a cybersecurity instructor, I noticed a common theme. Most of my students joined the program because they thought it looked cool, their parents told them to join it, they thought it had great earning potential, or they were simply just switching careers from another industry. I started to see myself in a lot of the students. Didn't have any direction, and that's something that we all resonated with. That's why in this video, I'm going to break down why I became a cybersecurity mentor and why it's important for the next generation of cybersecurity professionals. So for me, I graduated at Kennesaw State with my master's degree, and I wish I would have done things a lot differently. I should have been networking with our alumni, with our professors. I should have been attending some of the cybersecurity events that we had either in person or virtually. One of my professors, he holds a cybersecurity mixer, and he invites a lot of the cybersecurity professionals that either attended Kennesaw or already in the industry, and you're able to network. That's something that I should have been doing, and I should have been networking with those professionals to get a mentor. For a person like me switching careers, that would have been extremely valuable. Yes, I'm understanding the coursework, but understanding the industry and how to get into the industry the proper way was the big key. The only thing that I attended at Kennesaw State was we had a hackathon, and that's essentially where we have a few employers come. We'll do group activities and try to solve a task, and then at the end, get to express your interest in the company because some of them had opportunities coming up. But that's the only thing that I did. I should have been more available to put myself out there to say, hey, I'm new to the field. I would like direction and help. That's why when I became a cybersecurity instructor, in my interview, that's what I expressed to, the people interviewing me. I'm like, hey, I want to help shape the next generation of cybersecurity professionals. I want to mentor them. I want to help even change the education that they are receiving. These kids nowadays, they need to, in my opinion, get hands-on activities to see how the work that we're doing relates to the real-world scenarios. So when I became an instructor, I would say my first semester was probably my best. But, as you go along, you start to tweak things. And one thing that I implemented into my class was hands-on activities. I went to a teacher-professor conference in New Orleans, and it kind of changed my whole trajectory of how I teach. One of the speakers there, he stated that he does workshops. And I kind of tweaked that idea myself. I'll do a recorded lecture, and after the material that they learn, I'll give them a break. And then we're diving into a group hands-on activity. And that hands-on activity is essentially a role-based scenario where essentially what we learned in the chapter, I will make a mock scenario for Chatt Tech Bank because I teach at Chattahoochee Tech, and I will assign the students a role that's specific to whatever we just learned. So for example, one of our chapters has to deal with auditing, and essentially at Chatt Tech Bank, the students are going to be the internal auditing team, and they have to go into our systems and evaluate our controls and see if it is effective. And at the end of them working in their groups, they have to provide a report to me and present it as a class. That's how you really learn cybersecurity. You just can't stand up there and teach the terms. You have to make sure that you teach students how it applies in the real world. As I started to do assignments like that, I started to hear some of my students express their feedback. Hey, Professor Evans, I really liked auditing. How can I get into the field? What do I need to do to become an auditor? I started to pick up on different patterns, and basically I just started to realize that students are confused. My very first class, I do an icebreaker activity, and I ask students, what interests you about cybersecurity? What do you want to do in cybersecurity? And most of them say they don't really know. As class goes on, I like to understand my students a little bit better, and I can kind of identify as we go through the chapters what they are picking up on and what they do and do not like. Some of my students will even come to me after class and ask me questions about, hey, Professor Evans, I like this chapter, let's just say for networking. What do I need to do to get into networking? I'll recommend Cisco or Network Plus. As that started to go on, one of my students, before she departed ways to go to Kennesaw because we have a KSU Link program, she was actually a dual enrollment student, and I found it very interesting that she was about to transfer to Kennesaw that early. And before we wrapped up class, we was on chapter 12, and then after chapter 12 we do our final exam. So one of those last classes, she was like, hey, Professor Evans, I'm going to Kennesaw. I want your opinion on what I should major in because I'm interested in the information security. I looked at what Kennesaw had to offer, and I'm like, okay, cool. I think you should do the information security management. And one of the certifications that I recommended to her was the CISM, because I was also studying for the CISM at the time myself. That's going to look very attractive on her resume. And I kid you not, as she's going through her program at Kennesaw State, she reaches out to me. She's like, hey, Professor Evans, for one of my projects, I have to interview a cybersecurity professional that's already in the industry for some insights and advice. And, we've already had those type of conversations, so she felt comfortable asking me those questions that she had. And I started to see a pattern. Like, a lot of my other students that attended Chattahoochee Tech, they would reach out to me like, hey, Professor Evans, would you mind doing an interview to answer a few questions for me? And at that moment, I'm like, man, I'm really giving the students a lot of game and advice. I should definitely become like a cybersecurity career coach, even outside of Chattahoochee Tech. One of my past videos that I posted on YouTube, that was a real-time interview from one of my students that attended Chattahoochee Tech. And he asked, could we record an interview so he can present to his teacher for his project? And after that interview, I'm like, man, you know what? I'm really impacting the students. They're really receiving my advice well. I need to mentor these students because they're coming in cybersecurity lost. They don't know what they really want to do. And as someone who kind of struggled, I feel like my expertise can help them save a lot of wasted time just trying to navigate the field. Even outside of the student interviews, I had a life-changing experience before that happened that kind of changed my whole trajectory on how I wanted to do this as far as cybersecurity career coaching. I attended an open house, and before we wrapped up, I had a parent and her son come up to me, and they expressed their interest in cybersecurity. And the mom pulled me to the side. She kind of expressed to me that her son learns at a slower pace, and would I be interested in mentoring him so he can kind of learn the material to see if this is a fit for him. And I never done paid coaching before, so it was something that I didn't have the best experience in. But since I taught, I'm like, yeah, I can sit down with him. I had my first session with the parent and her son, and it turned out to be good. I started to learn more about him, and from what I gathered is he liked to hack systems, and he was very hands-on and things like that. And so we started off with penetration testing. That was something that he found interest in. And so I had access to Try Hack Me as far as like a premium account. And so I started to let him go through some of the ethical hacking material on there. And a few sessions go by, he is trying to understand it, trying to learn it. See, me, I'm not in it for the money. I'd rather just be honest with the client and let them know, hey, I feel like this is for you, this is not for you. As for going through it, I kind of just expressed to him like, I don't know if the penetration testing is for you. You seem to kind of force it, having a hard time grasping the material. Do you want to kind of evaluate another option? And he was like, you know what? Thank you, Professor Evans. As I had time to kind of think about it, I don't know if I really like penetration testing. It's just a lot of material to learn. And I'm like, cool. One thing I kind of picked up on was you found our server room interesting in my classroom. And you said that you were very hands-on and you like working with your hands and things like that. And you talked about, how you like working with your networks at home. I think networking might be a good path for you. And he was like, you know what? Let's try to do that. I do like networking. Working with the cables in the server room is kind of cool. I started to prepare him for the Network Plus, and I started to get him adapt to the Cisco material because that's another industry-related certification. And as we're going through that material, I thought he liked it. I thought he was finding the information very fun. He enrolled in Chatt Tech as a dual enrollment student, and he even took my 1601 course, which is Information Security Fundamentals. He passed that class, and after the semester, he was like, hey, Professor Evans, I think I'm not going to come for the following semester. I just don't know if I'm really into cybersecurity as I thought I was. I'm like, hey man, it's all good. I'm here. You can try to enroll in the summer or the fall and just take the spring off and finish up what you got going on at high school and then kind of revisit this. And before the spring semester was up, I met with him and his mom again just to try to catch up. I'm like, hey man, how's it going? Do you feel like you want to get back into the courses? These are the courses that I recommend. And he was like, Professor Evans, thank you so much. You telling me that, I feel like you're just not grasping the material or it's just too much. Helped me realize that I wanted to do agriculture. And at that moment, I really felt like, man, while I didn't help him figure out what he wanted to do in cybersecurity, I helped him find his lane in another industry. And that's when I realized that I'm just impacting these students' life. I'm helping them realize if they like cybersecurity or if they don't like cybersecurity up front so they can avoid a lot of wasted time and money just pouring into certifications and education. That really touched me. With that, I still built up a relationship. I put him in contact with the agriculture department that we have, and I really look forward to seeing how that benefits benefits him in his career, because everybody is not meant for cybersecurity, and that's okay. If I can impact a student's life up front and let them know that, hey, I feel like you should do this program, or B, I feel like, you should try a different option, makes the world, because you're just paying for tuition and wasting money at that point. And I don't like to see that happen. I wanted him to figure out his true passion. That's why I became a cybersecurity mentor. I hate to see students struggling in cybersecurity, just doing the work to pass the class, not really knowing what they want to do. And by the time they graduate, they have their associate's degree in cybersecurity, but they don't really know what direction they want to go. They're still trying to figure it out. If any student takes my class, I make sure that I kind of meet with them up front and let them know that, hey, these are different paths that you can take. These are the different careers that you can go into. Are you finding anything interesting? And if so, let's sit down and kind of map that out. And that's why I teach the 4-step career framework. You need to figure out which cybersecurity domain you want to get into. You need to figure out which job role you want to get into within that domain. You need to figure out how you're going to get educated, and you need to figure out which specific certification you're going to take to help increase your chances of getting into the field. And all of that information is available in our free cybersecurity navigator. Please check out the link in bio. It'll help speed up your process and help you look at the different options that you might have within cybersecurity. Outside of teaching, again, I am a cybersecurity career coach. If you feel like you're someone who wants to sit down with someone like myself and kind of navigate how you can break into cybersecurity, please book a session with me, a 1-hour session. I'm going to give you the complete roadmap. I'm going to break down the 4-step framework, and we're going to build up your social profile so you can get interviews and recruiters reaching out to you. Again, my name is Professor Evans. It's a pleasure having you to the channel. Please tap in with our other content and reach out if you have any questions. You guys have a good one.